Okay. So thank you, paranormal podcaster Jim Harold, for coming to Creativity and the Paranormal. Welcome.
So glad to be here, Stara. Thank you so much. I certainly appreciate it. Always nice to talk with you, and glad to spend some time with your audience in this spooky season. Now, somebody might say, well, Jim, you've got on kind of like a kind of tropical shirt here. Why would you have that on in the middle of spooky season? Well, actually, as we're recording this today, it was unseasonably warm in Ohio, so I thought I'd get this on one last time before the chill sets in and then snow, and we know what follows after that. So one last get up in the lightweight shirt here. So that's why I'm dressed like this for a Halloween interview.
Yes, very good idea. You got to stay cool, even in the Halloween season.
Yep,
I got a new sign,
indeed.
a retro, vintage sign. I really like.
I like that. I like that very much.
So first off, for the viewers who may not know your background, I know a lot of people watching this do, because I'm sure I'm going to put it up on the Campfire Facebook page and the Plus
Thank you.
Facebook page. So, but let me give you a little background about Jim Harold. I got this in the section called About Jim from your website. So there might be some updating here. So afterwards, you can tell me what stats have been updated. So about Jim, 16 years of podcasting. Having begun podcasting on the paranormal in 2005, Jim Harold is among a handful of pioneers of the medium. His programs have stood the test of time, and the Paranormal Podcast and Campfire remain among the most popular in the genre. Jim has developed a loyal following that spans the globe, in addition to his free podcast, jimharold.com. Jim also hosts a series of premium podcasts on the supernatural and related subjects at jimharoldplus.com. People make a note of those two websites. As a result, he has also become a published author with his Campfire series. The first book was originally published by traditional publisher New Page Books, and since then, Jim has taken the books independent. All five books are available in ebook and paperback at jimharoldbooks.com and on amazon.com. We all know that one too. All five books in the series have been #1 in supernatural bestsellers on the Kindle at various times. Both of Jim's flagship programs have reached the top 100 of all podcast episodes on Apple Podcasts, formerly iTunes, in the past in all categories. Campfire reached as high as number 32, and the Paranormal Podcast reached number 60. The competition in these levels includes many podcasts produced by major media networks like NPR. Jim's podcasts have been downloaded over 60 million times. Now, I'm sure that number is higher than that, but let's breathe that in, people. Downloaded over 60 million times. Incredible. So in 2005, Jim created the Paranormal Podcast. After over a decade of working on the business side of the media, which I've heard you talk about, Jim decided it was time to dust off his broadcast training and step back behind the mic. A lifelong interest in the paranormal, combined with his love of broadcasting and technology, have resulted in some of the most successful podcasts of their type to date. Jim has worked in radio, business-to-business media, and technology industries. And Jim holds a master's degree in applied communication theory and methodology and is accredited as a certified digital media consultant by the Radio Advertising Bureau. And Jim has also had the opportunity to teach at the university level, which I didn't know, Jim. That's wonderful.
Yeah. It's thank you for reading that. I know it's a lot, and just really blessed to be able to do this as my job. And It's so funny how fate works out, because I had a lot of jobs before I started this full time, and it should be 18 years ago, so I need to update that on the page. But honestly, I just feel blessed. And all those jobs that some of them I didn't like as much as others really kind of led to this opportunity to do this. So I just feel very blessed and very thankful to the audience out there and
Yes.
great supporters. I know you are a great supporter of the shows. I appreciate that very much. And that's what makes it all possible. So I'm a grateful guy.
Yes. I mean, I'm obsessed with you, but don't worry, I'm normal. I'm not a stalker. I think you know that by now. And
Absolutely.
I took a screenshot of the Spooky Studio app that I have, and these are
Hmm.
all of Jim's podcasts. And this is Jim's daughter, Cassandra Harrell,
Yes,
with
yes, yes. Unpleasant
Unpleasant
dreams.
Dreams.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I can name these all off, but they just go to jimharold.com or Spooky
Yeah,
Studio?
jimharold.com is the hub for everything. And I always recommend that people start out with my free podcasts. I always kind of direct people to the campfire first because I think that's the most accessible show I do and one that speaks to everybody because it's regular folks sharing their stories of the supernatural. And I think that's the one that appeals to the most people. And that's how a lot of people find our shows. And I'd love for people to check it out. And the most recent 13 weeks are always free on that
Yeah.
show, so you can listen and every week and never buy a thing. So and if you become a super fan, then you can look into the Plus Club. But I always say get that free stuff. Get that free stuff.
Yes.
There's plenty of it, and there's always new free stuff coming out each and every week.
Start off with that. So speaking of, this is a surprise I have for you. You might remember
Ooh,
this. You might remember this.
ooh,
Speaking of the campfire, again, is so the campfire, if they go to jimharold.com, if someone has a spooky story they want to share, correct me if I'm wrong.
yeah,
They go to
no, you're right.
jimharold.com, they were led to campfire, you type in your story with your name and email, send to
Yeah,
you, and then
mm-hmm.
you would respond back and say, okay, we're going to record like we're doing on Zoom, but it's audio. And then
Yes.
put it on your campfire. So it's people telling their stories.
Yes, exactly. What we do is
Yeah.
you go to jimharold.com/campfire and you fill in a form and you don't have to type out the whole story. You could kind of give us like a, paragraph or two of what it's about. And then you hit submit and then myself or my assistant producer, Maddie, get in touch and we coordinate scheduling a time. And it's very, I like to make it a conversation. It's not confrontational. I'm not going to say, did you really see that? I think, Star, my approach is I come from a place that the person is being honest with me. So I don't try to question them in the way that is negative. I'm very accepting
Right.
and want to create a place where people can feel that they can safely recount their experiences.
Exactly. And I've been on it several times, so I know exactly what you're talking about. So on the Campfire Facebook page, we can post our own experiences or share things and this and that. So I just had this idea one morning. I posted, where do you listen to Campfire? Is it Friday morning or Thursday night now that you come out with a new episode?
Yeah, it should be early Thursday, but most of the time it ends up being Thursday evening.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because every Friday morning I'm like, oh yay, it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. And I have a new campfire to listen to. Yay. So I put it up there and I said, hey, when I get ready in the morning, I have a new vanity in my bedroom there. And I put on makeup before I go to the train to go to my job. I listen to Campfire on my phone. And I said to people, where do you listen to Campfire? So I got some answers here. I just want to run
Oh, cool.
and so this was last June of 2022. So these are the answers we got of people that listen to Campfire. I listen while working. I have a business and work at home, so I always have podcasts or a book going. Keeps me company during my creative time while I'm sewing, knitting, crocheting, or painting. And someone else said they listen to Campfire while doing the dishes, cleaning up for the night, when everyone else has gone to bed with headphones on. Regularly freaks me out. Scary stories. Another one, I actually listen while cleaning our church. I know nothing will get me there. Also, to go to sleep, cooking, cleaning up in the kitchen, car, or gardening. Another listener says, I listen on my way to work, although I go to work at 3:30 a.m. on a mostly empty, dark country road. Probably not the best time to listen to the campfire stories, LOL. I usually listen on my back porch. It's where I have me time. And there's just a couple more. I listen while cooking and cleaning. God help anyone that comes up behind me and I don't hear them.
And was able to trademark that.
Yeah.
But the point is that it was really early, folks. So there were just a handful of them. And I said, you know what? I love this. I've loved it since I was a kid. I go to a library, I go to a bookshop. That's right what I go for. I go exactly for that section. And I said, I could see myself doing this for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing I said, Star, was this will be great because I'll do this for 6 months and I'll have all this stuff figured out. So that's why I picked the paranormal, because really, since I was a little kid, I had an innate interest in the paranormal, which continued up to my 30s and has subsequently continued up to now, 18 years later, still doing these shows and still being fascinated by the topic.
Oh yes, absolutely. It's a never-ending realm, or I mean it's a category. Sorry, I'm fixing my thing here. But it just seems like a realm to me, the paranormal. So I've got to ask, I know it's going to be hard to pick, Jim, but do you have a favorite paranormal movie or TV show now or when growing up?
Well, when growing up, it's In Search Of, hands down.
Oh, I love
Although, I mean, it depends if you get into the fictional area. Big fan of Twilight Zone, which delves kind of into some of these areas. Love the Twilight Zone. Currently, I'm trying to think. I know there's going to be something that I'm going to forget. I tend to be, I hate to say this, I'm a bit of an old soul. So I tend to like older programs and things.
Yeah.
So when it comes to movies, I mean, I'm not kind of like, if you're looking at horror and those kind of things, I'm not really a blood and guts person. I'm more kind of that psychological aspect. So for me, like, if you take a movie like Saw, it's nowhere near as frightening as something like Rosemary's Baby or The Shining, right?
Totally agree.
Yeah, because all of it's like Rosemary's Baby. I don't know about you, but I watch that movie even now, and the movie's over 50 years old, and I just feel just slightly unsettled through the whole thing.
Oh yes.
The Omen is another great one. Of course, The Exorcist. So that kind of milieu of movies. Hereditary was a more recent movie that was very good and kind of along those lines. So when it comes to kind of entertainment, that's the kind of thing. I like I would love for there. And I think there's some shows like The Unexplained and some shows that try to carry on in this way. I wish we had more paranormal TV like In Search Of, rather than the kind of, let me run into a room with the black t-shirt and say, oh, what was that? Was that a oh no. That's, I gotta say, that's not my favorite thing. And I'm not saying all the people that work on those shows are bad. And I think that many of the people that work on those shows are sincere. It's just not my thing. So that's kind of where I'm at. So when it comes to paranormal TV, paranormal quote entertainment, I'm kind of old school.
Yes, we're in the same category there, in the same vein. So now this is not going to be, because I've heard you on the show, on the podcast. This is not going to be if something happened. You're going to have to pick which one you want to share, because you've had a few. Have you ever seen a ghost or experienced something strange?
Oh yeah, I'll pick one. And it's really, things that happen to me don't seem to be like, oh, it's the full body apparition, but it seems to be these weird synchronicities. Now, several years ago, I just actually returned, well, not just now, but a few months ago, I was on a cruise that was relating to the topics we cover. But a few years ago, I was on a previous cruise. I think it was in 2017. And it was with the late, great Rosemary Ellen Guiley. Micah Hanks was there. And anyway, so part of the job when you're a speaker at one of these things is to obviously speak. And we had a nice little conference room where we had a day at sea. So we were speaking to the attendees who were attending this cruise to hear Rosemary speak and Micah speak and me. And my slot was coming up, so they had a break, and I thought, oh, I had a little bit of a cold, so I thought, oh, I'll get some coffee or something.
Hmm.
So I walked out to get some coffee and they had to walk through the casino of the ship to get to the area, the cafe where they had coffee. And I saw one of our attendees playing a crane game where you have this little claw that comes down and grabs money. Now, that may sound familiar to folks, maybe not the money game, but like if you go into these, uh, like big box stores like Walmart and stuff, you'll see these things where you get the stuffed animals. Well, that resonated with me because that was a thing for my late uncle who had died in 2013, who was like a second dad to me. And it really resonated with me because I thought, and plus he was one of those people who liked to do a little bit of gambling, not big time, not big money, but he liked to do the scratch off tickets, lotto ticket, bet
Yeah.
on a football pool, at work or something. So I thought, boy, he would love this. It's got his favorite, his crane game, plus it's for money. He wouldn't win anything, but he'd have a great time doing it.
Yeah.
Man, I wish he were here.
Oh,
So I was having a very intentional thought of him. And it was a thing, so much so one year for Christmas, I got him a little toy crane game. So it was
how cute.
really identified with him for
Yeah.
me, at least.
Yeah.
When I saw one of those, I thought of him every single time. So anyway, I see this guy from our group playing the crane game. Said, I wish my uncle were here. A woman, probably in her 60s, walks up next to the game. She cups her hand to her mouth and goes, John, John. Guess what my uncle's name was? John. And
John.
shortly
Oh,
her husband or whoever it was walks
oh my
over.
gosh.
So
Oh
to
my
me,
gosh.
that was my uncle saying, you're thinking of me and I'm thinking of you and I'm here. And hey, how are you?
That's amazing. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, for it to happen at exactly that time, and the lady's screaming, and she didn't whisper it, she screamed.
Now she was like, John, John.
Oh my
I
gosh.
mean, what are the chances? I mean,
Yeah,
again, it
yeah,
could have been a coincidence, but it would have been an extraordinary coincidence. And so many little things had to fall in place. We had to take the break at that time. The guy had to go decide to play the game. I had to decide to walk through there. This woman had to get separated from her husband, who happened to be named John. She happened to decide to do that as I was walking through. I mean, so many little stupid things had to happen that I believe that was a very direct sign. Now, people would say, oh, that's just a coincidence and you didn't see a ghost or whatever. But to me, it was just as significant. And still a little thing I do to this day, I got a bunch of tools from my uncle. And I could do little things around the house. I'm not a great handyman. I could do basic stuff. But anyway, like I'll be looking for a socket, and if anybody's ever tried to look for sockets, there's a million different sizes. And you can't find something. I'm like, John, help me find the right socket, and within like 30 seconds, I'll find the right socket.
oh, that's great. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, like you said, it doesn't always have to be Casper the Ghost or something, it's those synchronicities that really make an impact, because you can feel it inside.
Yeah.
You feel completely different than you did 5 minutes ago, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love that. So what advice would you have for aspiring podcasters?
Do it. Basically, I mean, podcasting's changed my life, and I have to be very honest. I think to replicate what I did if I started now would be exceptionally hard to do for me. Even if I knew what I know now, it would be very hard because there's many more podcasters. So I don't want to discourage anybody, but I think it's a harder climb now just because there's so many. I think one of the advantages I have was what they call first mover advantage. I was early, I kind of stood out, and that helped me. That being said, there are people every day who start podcasts that within 6 months to a year to 2 years to 3 years will have a hit. I remember of two folks who started a podcast called And That's Why We Drink, Christine and them. They are great. They started off as fans of the campfire. And I have to say, the student surpassed the teacher. They do 20 city tours. They have millions more downloads than I have. I mean, so to me, it's one of those things where it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to work hard.
Yeah.
But if that's your passion and what you want to do it. I would say don't expect to make $1 million overnight. I think people say, well, Jim, you quit your job. Yeah, but what they don't realize is I quit my job 7 years after I started.
Right, right.
Not saying that
Yeah,
somebody else can't do it sooner. Sure. But most people, unless you have an established following through some other platform, if you're on TV, you're on radio, you already have a huge online following, it's a
yeah,
little different. But if you're starting like I did from ground zero with no following, it's going to take time. But I still believe
yeah,
it can be done, and you can have a hell of a good time doing it. It's a lot of work. It's like anything else. I mean, I would like to be more fit than I am. And I know what I need to do to make that happen. I just choose not to do it, which is unfortunate. The point is that there is no magic pill with podcasting. It's a lot of work. And I think
yeah,
there is a tendency to think, oh, this is easy. I can just start and quit my job and that kind of thing. And I would say disavow yourself of that. But if you're willing to put in the work, I think that rewards can still be there, whether it's through just sheer satisfaction and enjoyment of exploring a topic you love, whether it's the paranormal or something else, to
yeah,
maybe something more like being able to supplement your income or maybe even do it full time. I would never say that it can't be done, because it can. Will it be easy? I don't think so, but it can be done.
exactly, exactly. And I'm having fun just doing my YouTube channel right now, I mean,
Yeah.
I have the full-time job and all that, and I'm losing my cape here, excuse me. These Halloween costumes are so troublesome. But so that's how I'm expressing myself right now, which leads us to, there's just two more questions, but this is something I don't think gets talked about enough, Jim. What would you say? What advice would you give to paranormal creators? And I say creators because there's podcasts, there's
Sure.
there's all kind of different platforms. What would you say to creators in the paranormal genre when it comes to naysayers? People that kind of try to talk you down, this and that. No names or anything like that, but
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean.
honestly, I think you just have to run your own race. I
Yeah.
mean, there's always going to be people who run you down, whether it's just in general or whether it is specific to your genre. For example, I used to have somebody who used to say, oh, he's a millionaire podcaster. That's why he can have his fancy mic and his fancy equipment. And I just had to laugh, because I'm like, whose bank account are you looking at? Because it ain't mine. I make a middle class living. I'm a middle class guy, certainly not a millionaire. So, I mean, people are going to, if you have any level of success, people are going to take shots at you. And I think you just have to be willing to understand that that just goes with the territory. You
Yeah.
can't please everybody. There is no way. And in terms of skeptics or people like that, the best thing to do, I think, is just kind of let it go, because you're always going to have people who say all of this is BS, all of this is not real, all of this is people's imagination or people hoaxing.
Yeah.
And I don't mean all skeptics, by the way. I think there are people, for example, I got to interview Dr. Michael Shermer, who is a skeptic a few years,
Oh, okay.
quite
I
a
think
few
you've heard
years
of him.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, who was the editor of Skeptic magazine. And even though we disagreed on virtually everything, he was very good about it. I mean, he is willing to have a dialogue. Whereas I think some of the hardcore debunkers are not willing to have any such dialogue. And those people,
Oh,
you're just
okay.
got to realize they
Yeah.
exist and just kind of let it roll off your back.
Right.
Again, if you put yourself out in the public in any way whatsoever, you're going to have people who take pot shots at you
Yeah.
that are unfair. And that's going to happen. And then you might have people, at times people will critique me, and I'll think to myself, that's a fair critique. And I think you've got to be able to take constructive criticism. But if you're just talking out to people who are being mean, just mean people, there's
Like
always
the
going to be mean
trolls.
people. Yeah, there's always going to be them. And they
Yeah.
say don't feed the trolls. So I think it's good. Try to. Sometimes it's tough. Sometimes you want to answer back, but most 9 times out of 10, it's better if you just don't say anything.
Exactly. I saw an interview with Michelle Pfeiffer years and years ago. The actress Michelle Pfeiffer, of
Yeah.
course. And she said that she doesn't read the negative feedback. I mean, obviously she takes direction from directors and stuff like that and works on her.
Sure.
We all know she's very talented and she's a hard working actor and all that. But she said, yeah, the people around me too, I tell them not to tell me this. I said, no, I don't want to hear the negativity. And I'm like, that's kind of cool, because I mean, she'll take the constructive stuff, but
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I think that, the thing is, and you were asking about advice, kind of going back to advice for creators in general.
Yeah.
I've been doing this 18 years, and shortly before our recording, I was looking at a YouTube video about a piece of software, editing software. It's supposed to help improve sound. I think that's another piece of advice I give, going back a couple questions. Continuous improvement. Always try to get better, because I realize, there are a lot of people out there competing. And I mean, I'm kind of one of those people. I've had, Star, from listening. For example, last 3 months of Campfire, at the first part of this year, almost every show I had another podcaster on.
Oh yeah, that's really fun.
Yeah, I have no problem kind of sharing the spotlight with other podcasters and so forth, but also in a way we are competing with each other, in the sense that I feel that I have to put out the best product that I can so people will listen. So I, even 18 years in, am still trying to improve, and there is room for improvement, trust me.
Yes.
And whether it's the sound, whether it's the technology, whether it's my presentation skills, whatever it is, I'm always trying to get better. And I think when you stop doing that, it's time to just kind of hang it up. So at least so far, that's a continuous process for me, and hope to continue that until I get ready to hang up the old mic.
Yeah, well, that'll be a ways off,
I hope so.
Exactly.
I'm thinking until I'm 70, so that would give me quite a few years, actually. Over 15 years.
Yeah, and hey, the road just keeps getting better and better. And for anyone who was a skeptic or naysayer to you in the past, Jim, I mean, I don't think they should have been, because look, your best friend is Frankenstein. He's waving hello.
That's right. That's right. Don't mess with Frankenstein. He doesn't appreciate it.
Right. And I'm convinced you are in a Halloween costume. You're a Hawaiian guy or someone vacationing in Maui, and you've got your shirt on.
Yeah, it was very warm today. So we had that on.
It was. So thank you so much, Jim, for coming on. Any last words, or did you want to say your little tagline you always say at the end of the...
I will say it. Well, first of all, Star, thank you for being very generous with your time and allowing me to spend some time with you and your audience. Wish you continued success with the YouTube channel, and I hope everybody will check out the free podcast. That's where I point everybody. The free podcast at jimharold.com, or you can look me up on your favorite podcatcher, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever it might be. Look for Jim Harold, particularly Jim Harold's Campfire. I think that's the one that most people will gravitate towards. And as you kind of indicated, my tagline, I always like to say it, Stara, to you and your audience, stay spooky.
All right. Stay spooky, everyone, and happy Halloween.